Actually, it's not that difficult. Peace everyone, Unmask here, and welcome back to the Drawing Journal. As you can see, I am still working on this piece here. Kind of took a break last week from doing this because I had a few other videos to do. I did the What I Eat in a Day video, and then I also did the review of the Oogie 2150, which was very time consuming, but it was fun to do. And I've been playing with that thing like all weekend. It's so much fun to try something new, do digital art, and yeah, I have some big plans for it in the future, and that's pretty much it. But getting into today's topic, over the past lifetime, I come across this question, and it's a question that I've asked myself for a really long time. And it is the question of, how do you develop your artistic style? How do you create a style that people recognize or people appreciate, and it's your own and nobody else has it? And sometimes I see response to this question in a way that is somewhat disappointing, because a lot of us that look at other people's work and judge our work based on what we see other people creating, it's really not a positive aspect to creating, and it can be difficult at times when you're sitting there, you're looking at what you create, and then you compare it to something that another person creates, and you just think that you're no good. And it's really not a good way to look at your work. And so the first step in developing your own style, I would say, is to stop comparing your work so harshly to the work of other people, especially to the work of people that have work that you want to emulate. I am not naive enough to think that some of the things that I create here on my channel, people don't look at and say to themselves, I'll never get that good, or I wish that I could make something like that, or a number of different responses to the things that I make. And it's unfortunate that I can't control that feeling based on the things that I create, and that I might actually discourage somebody from creating simply because of what I create and their inability to do it in that moment of time. And I can tell you that it doesn't change. The point that I'm at, if you consider my work to be of any significant talent, which based on many of the comments I generally receive on my videos, I think it's safe to say that that a lot of people appreciate my work for what it is, not only the way that I teach it, but also the quality of work that I create. And it's humbling, but even at this point, I can go to another person's work and be like, man, I wish I could make that. Even at the level that you would consider me. I don't know if there's a level. Personally, I don't think there is a level, because I don't ever want to run out of levels. I don't want to be at the top. I don't want to ever feel like I've reached my plateau and I'll never get better. And I think that's one of the best things, or one of the things that I love most about artwork and doing art, is that I've spent a lifetime doing it, and I've still never reached the point where I feel like my work is perfect. In fact, as much as I chase that perfection, I get farther and farther away from it. And I think that that's what I enjoy most about creating, is that even after all these years, I've still not reached it. I've still not reached the level of perfection that I subconsciously seek in every way. Like just the way that I approach my drawings, or the way that I plan them out, or the new original ideas that I try to come up with, because I feel like everything's already been created and it's just a matter of trying to recreate it in a way that other people haven't seen. But yeah, so the point, and I didn't script any of this. I'm just kind of coming from the heart here, and because I've noticed over the past couple weeks that more and more people have mentioned or brought up, or I've come across somebody asking about how to develop your own artistic style, and I do have a simple answer to it, and I'm kind of working my way up to that, to just give you some perspective as to what I've been through myself. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that even at this level that you may consider me, there's going to be a different perspective as to what level I'm at. For instance, my own perspective, I would not even put myself in the top 10%, if that's a thing. I'm just kind of making that up, whether or not levels actually legitimately exist in the art community. And I don't really subscribe to the idea that levels do exist. So, but I think it makes this topic a bit easier to talk about. So that's what I'm going to do. Anyways, so depending on a person's perspective, they're going to put me in a different level than what I might put myself. Some people might think of my work as being within the top 10%, and I would disagree with that. I don't think that my work is, and I think that I have a lot more to learn. And so that's just two potential perspectives as to where I am. And each person is going to kind of agree or disagree as to where I'm at with my work, and whether it's a professional level or not. And that's never going to change. No matter how good I'm get, it's never going to change. That there's people are going to hold their own perspectives, and I don't have any control of that, and I shouldn't have any control over that. And I also shouldn't concern myself with the perspective of other people, unless I value their perspective and it's beneficial to me to consider their perspective. And I would say in most cases, it's not beneficial for people to kind of take other people's perspective into account of their work. I think it's important to just continue creating and not be so wrapped up in what other people think, not wrapped up in what other people are creating. It's you shouldn't look. What you want to try to get to is a point where you look at somebody else's work and you don't compare it to your work in a negative manner. You don't look at their work and be like, man, I'll never get that good. I'll never be able to create that. Because if you were to look at the first few videos on my channel, when I started my channel, I thought that I was a good artist back then. And you might go back. You might go back and look at some of the things that I drew and things like that and think, that's really good. I'd never be able to do that. But when I go back, all I see is mistakes. All I see is mistakes that over the past couple years, I've actually been able to correct a few of them. Only a few of them, believe it or not. And I still have a long way to go. I make mistakes in all the work that you see me do right now. What I'm doing right now, I'm just making a series of mistakes. But if I make one mistake over top of another mistake, it might be a new mistake, but it might also be the right mistake. And when you look at, now kind of shifting gears and getting a little bit more on topic as far as how to create your own personal style, how to develop your style as an artist. You know, I keep mentioning mistakes as, and don't take a mistake as something negative, especially in art. I would say that the mistakes that I've made in my pieces, maybe mistake isn't exactly the best word used to describe what I actually believe that it is. I think mistake is kind of a default word to go to as far as looking at artwork, but it kind of has a negative connotation to it. So maybe instead of thinking it as a mistake, you think of it as your signature. Because when you sign something, at least when I sign something, my signature is almost never the same. But there's a few distinguishing qualities to my signature that make it recognizable. And I don't sign my name consciously. You know, when I'm at the grocery store and I have to sign my name for my credit card when I use it or whatever, I don't sit there and contemplate the strategy of me signing my name. I just do it, and I've done it so many times over the years that it's kind of an unconscious activity at this point. And though it never looks the same twice, there's two very specific qualities in my signature that make it my own, that would make it impossible for somebody to replicate perfectly, to the point that, you know, an analyst looking at a forgery of my signature would be able to determine whether or not it is authentic or not. And people do that. There's people that authenticate signatures in artwork as well. And there's a reason. There's a reason that somebody can't replicate it. They can't replicate the pen pressure exactly. They can't represent the movement of your wrist perfectly. And it's because over the years, you develop a flow within your joints, I guess. And that flow is what creates your signature, your authentic signature. And so over the years of creating art, you develop your signature. You don't have to concern yourself. The secret is you don't have to concern yourself with your style. It's a myth that you have to develop your style, because you don't. You don't have to develop your style any more than you have to develop the sound of your voice. The voice that you hear me speaking to you with is not a voice I created. It is simply me opening my mouth and speaking words. And if you want to develop your artistic style, all you have to do is open up your mouth and speak your words. And what I mean by that is create. Just make whatever it is you want. Don't concern yourself with anything that somebody else said or does. Don't look at another person's work and tell yourself that you'll never be able to create it. The harsh reality of that is it's true. You can look at another person's work and you won't ever be able to create that. It's because you'll never be able to speak purely with another person's voice. You can imitate, and there's great imitators, you know? There's great imitators. But you don't want to be an imitator. If you're already concerning yourself with your own style, developing your own style, then you don't want to be an imitator. You want to be original. And the funny thing about being original is it's the easiest thing to do. It's much easier to be original than it is to be an imitator. Could you imagine trying to live your life speaking the voice of another person? It's not something I'd want to do anyway. But that doesn't mean that you can go along and force yourself to never, try to recreate something that somebody did, I recreate things that other people have done all the time. In fact, I'm doing one right now. I was doodling with my fiance over the weekend, and I was like, hey, let's copy some line art offline and just sit and color together. So obviously I copied somebody else's work, but I won't create it perfectly. I won't be able to recreate it perfectly. So that's it. That's the secret. The secret is that you don't have to develop your own style. You don't have to find it. There's nothing to find. You don't have to look for your voice when you get ready to talk to somebody. It's there. It's just a part of you. And just like growing up and your voice changes throughout the years a little bit, so does your artistic, your artistic creations. They develop. They go through a proverbial puberty, I guess, that never ends. Well, anyways, this piece isn't quite done. I might toy around with it a little bit, but I would say I'm pretty much tired of working on it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some insight on your creative mind and your personal style. Remember, it's not something that you need to really concern yourself too much about, because your style develops organically on its own. And I know maybe sometimes it can be difficult to get through a certain time where you feel like you're styleless, but just keep creating. Your style is really the mistakes that you make over and over again. You make the same mistakes over and over again, and it's your organic style. It's just your mistakes. But your mistakes are good. You should continue to make them. If there's something that you want to develop, then develop it, as far as your color choices or your color palettes, or maybe your subjects, or just a creative idea. Just create. Sit down and create. And don't stop. And before you know it, people are going to be recognizing your style the same way people recognize my style. And to be honest with you, it's kind of baffling to me. People can look at some of my work and know that it's some of my work. I feel like I create just a spectrum of anything. My channel is the perfect example of creating whatever it is I want. You can go back 2 weeks and see me do the most realistic Jaguar. And then a week later, you can see me doing an anime character, or in this case, a landscape kind of thingy. If you go to my DeviantArt page, you can see my gallery is filled with just the most random subjects imaginable. And it's because it doesn't matter. You just create. And your style is automatic. It's as automatic as the sound of your voice. Anyways, with that said, I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Peace.